Hello and welcome to this brief video in which we will be previewing the Non-Road Powertrain and Fuels Conference that will be taking place on the 7th and 8th of October in Munich this year. And in doing so, we'll be speaking with a number of the speakers at the conference. And first up, I'm delighted to welcome Mats Bredborg, who works for Volvo Construction Equipment. Mats describes himself on LinkedIn as an electrification evangelist. So we can probably guess what his subject matter will be. Are my suspicions correct, Mats?
You're 100% correct. So I work at Volvo Construction Equipment, and we have started to electrify our fleet, our product range, and offer many models in electric versions. And I will talk a little bit about the roadmap to zero emissions, if that is hydrogen, electrification, or combination of them, or alternative fuels, and look at the advantages and disadvantages of different fuels. But most importantly, I will work or talk about or showcase some of the use cases we have done in the market of how the different technology works and what is the benefits of those technologies and how do you get them into the market and what can we learn of those from a design point of view. And thirdly, I will take a little bit of a business case. I mean, this is a huge investment that we're talking about to go from one fuel system like the carbon-based one to a carbon-free one, and what is the business case to go electric for our customers, and what does it take? So a little bit of the topic that I will cover.
Okay, thank you. What's driving the move to electrification in off-road vehicles?
So the one that is the hottest right now is actually air quality. So a lot of construction machines are working in cities. And if you say, for example, I live very close to London, it's the world's biggest low emission zones. And now construction has overtaken on road when it comes to black carbon and NOx pollution. And that is affecting public health. So, and you see that across Europe and some other areas that air quality in urban environments is a driving factor for going electric, and especially then in cities. Then the bigger equipment outside is obviously the decarbonisation.
Okay. And I understand that it's quite early days in the electrification of off-road equipment. And so I wondered what factors are actually holding it back.
I think there is a few factors. I mean, if we stay with the cities, is that they have gone through the normal route. I mean, you look at on highway, you look at your bus or public transportation system, you're looking at taxis, looking at last delivery mile, and then the last thing on that thing will be construction. So it's just that the normal thing that they are looking at decarbonisation and air quality from the biggest polluters to the smallest polluters, and that's been but we see now that a lot of them are now coming in and looking at construction. Then there are roadblocks. I mean, there are technology challenges when it comes to charging, getting the charging infrastructure right, and I will talk about that when it comes to our use cases. And then there is a premium right now when it comes to the investment of this. It is slightly more expensive, but it gives a competitive advantage, and also that it will give a future of coming down and be more competitive than diesel versions.
So is there a demand coming from the public, from the buyers of equipment, or the people who buy and then rent out construction equipment, or where is the pull through coming from?
So the major pull through, going back to cities again, it is the cities themselves. The cities themselves are putting into their bids and saying that it needs to be coming down in air quality and carbon, and that's the bid that's coming out then. And then the contractors and the rental houses and everyone has to follow that. So I don't see that there is a lot of contractors saying that, oh, we want to go electric, but we're seeing that those ones that are converting are now getting a chance to get those bids. And just I will bring that up in the presentation, a case that we have in Westminster in London, where they now is saying that they need to be zero emission going forward. and therefore that's driving a lot of investments then from the contractors. And remember, it's not only the technology, it's the whole process of making this work. And if you don't have the process right, then you're not competitive anymore.
Sure, absolutely. It sounds like it's going to be a really interesting presentation. Thanks very much for your time, Mats, and I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being there. It's been great.
Next up, we have Lewis Bassett from the Construction Plant Hire Association, where last year he took on the newly appointed role of decarbonisation and sustainability manager. Before that, Lewis worked for the London Borough of Merton, where he worked in low emission solutions for the construction plant sector. Lewis's main role in Merton was in the cleaner machinery team, which implements London's low emission zone for non-road mobile machinery. So Lewis is obviously ideal for a conference of this nature. Thank you for joining me, Lewis. I wonder if you could kick off by giving us a very brief insight into what the CPA is and what its role is in decarbonisation.
Yeah, of course. So the CPA is a membership organisation. So we represent circa 2,000 suppliers of construction equipment. It's the largest of its kind in the UK, and most construction equipment is hired, so it covers the vast majority of machines that are out there. The CPA is it's we're not here to decarbonise the sector. We're in an advisory role. And I'm sure everyone can get behind the decarbonisation agenda. It's just that there are some significant challenges to uptake in practice, especially around cost and infrastructure. So it's about making sure that in this shared goal to get to a lower emission future, we don't accidentally damage the sector and cause issues that are going to set us backwards instead of forwards.
Okay, and are those issues that you're going to be addressing in your presentation at the Non-Road Powertrain and Fuels Conference in Munich in October?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay,
we'll be diving into some of the technical detail and technical challenges and the cost challenges that the sector faces to try and encourage people to take a balanced approach to it and say, look, this is something that we need to address, but we also need to make sure it makes sense for business.
okay, and then just very briefly, if cost is a major challenge to decarbonisation in this sector, what are the kind of timescales that we're looking at? Do we have to wait for old equipment to die, or can we retrofit or replace?
I think it's all customer led at the end of the day, and it's about making sure that we don't overwhelm the customer with costs of installing infrastructure, buying the latest and greatest machines, because they're going to be more to hire. You might not always make up the fuel savings that, for all the cost of the infrastructure, the charger, the hydrogen distribution network. There's a lot of costs there. And if we move to some companies just don't have that sort of capex to be able to invest in that stuff straight off. It needs to evolve, an evolution, not a revolution. It needs to be a gradual process where, slowly the technology gets taken up firstly by the bigger contractors that can afford to use some of that kit, and then once it becomes more commercially viable, it will grow. But it's about letting it grow naturally and evolve rather than trying to force equipment onto people that they either can't afford or can't actually physically safely use at the moment.
Understood. Thanks very much, Lewis. That's really interesting. It should be a fascinating conference. Thanks for your time. Okay, so next up we have Chris Matthew from Plantforce Rentals. Chris is responsible for driving strategic direction and commercial growth with a focus on innovation, safety, and sustainability at Plantforce. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. I wonder if you could very briefly tell us a little bit about Plantforce and what your role is in decarbonisation.
Yeah, sure, Graham. Thank you. So Plantforce is one of the UK's top three providers of operated and self-drive plant across the UK. We typically service UK infrastructure, so that's highways, rail, utilities, and increasingly power. And as part of that, the sort of customers that we deal with are challenging us on how we are helping them decarbonize their operations on site. So those conversations are typically around alternative fuels, alternative techniques, behavioral training, etc. So in terms of what we're looking to talk about at the Emission Analytics Conference in Munich, we'll be looking to not only give a broad overview of the UK marketplace and how we put our machines and people to work, but specifically some of the project work we've done as a consortium in something called Element 1, which has been looking at how we substitute some of the use of diesel with hydrogen. And I'm looking forward to sharing with the audience the progress of that project, what we've achieved, some of the challenges that we've had, and ultimately the output and how we're going to look to move forward beyond the project's completion.
Thanks. So is it customers you're saying that are driving this move to decarbonisation?
Predominantly customers, but obviously our customers, and I class those as tier one contractors in the UK, they have clients. So those clients, be it National Highways, it could be the Environment Agency and many other clients, they themselves are trying to comply with policy and legislation changes in the UK.
Okay, that's great. Sounds like it's going to be an interesting talk. Thanks very much for joining us, Chris. Okay, so next up we have Dr. Marcus Heidak, who is from Zeppelin Rental, who has kindly agreed to speak with us today. Thank you for joining us, Marcus. I wonder if you could start off by very briefly giving us a little bit of information about Zeppelin Rental and also perhaps about the Eco Solutions brand, which you launched last year.
Yes, Graham, sure, of course. So as you mentioned, Marcus Heidak, my name. I joined Zeppelin Rental in 2022. I'm currently working here as the senior CSR manager, which means I'm responsible for all the operational and strategic sustainability topics across all our European markets. Zeppelin Rental, we call ourselves an integrated solution provider. So we are not only a rental company where you can rent an excavator. No, we are much more. We are also, for example, into construction logistics. That means we are taking care of all the material processes coming and going to the construction site, as well as waste management, for example, on the construction side, as well as project management. We are also working for road safety topics. So we are a very broad solution provider for different aspects during the different construction phases. So from energy production, over energy to energy distribution, and so on and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Marcus. And could you give us a brief summary of your presentation for the Munich conference?
Yes, of course. So my topic is challenges faced by construction equipment rental companies achieving fleet decarbonization. And I want to offer some practical examples from the German market. So not from other markets we are working in, so focused on German market. And of course, we have to talk about the key challenges for all rental companies we have here. So on the one hand, I want to talk very shortly about regulatory complexity, because we have to understand that from two different perspectives. So from a rental company perspective, as well from a client perspective. And then I also want to focus on the tender requirements. So because a lot of things changing currently, so sustainable solutions are more and more pushed into the market through tender requirements, especially if we go from a governmental perspective on that. Then I want to talk about how we closed, for example, the infrastructural gaps. So if we talk about decarbonization, we talk about electrification of machines. And one common question is, how do I charge this excavator after 8 hours? So many clients have still a lot of question marks regarding that. So we had a research project, another research project, it was like we called it a zero emission construction site, where we demonstrated how zero emission processes can work. And I want to show some examples how we close this gap of charging infrastructure, grid access, and so on. Then I want to talk about how we can improve or how we improve the customer readiness for electrification and what kind of trainings we offer. And yeah, and then I want to talk about the research project with the University of Aachen. We had couple of 1 year ago, and they analyzed how a rental fleet could develop in the next 10 years regarding different technologies, hydrogen, electrification, HVO, and so on. And yeah, and that's what I want to present in 20 minutes. I hope it will be
It's a
enough
lot to
time.
cover.
Yeah, a lot to cover in many
Absolutely.
interesting topics,
Now,
actually.
my last question to you, and we could probably talk about this all day, but I'd be grateful if you could summarize it very briefly. And that is, I know that your company is active in a number of different countries, so I wonder how you would summarize any differences that there may be between the decarbonisation process in the construction industry in Germany compared to the other countries in which you have activities.
Oh yeah, great. We could talk about that quite long, actually. First of all, it's quite challenging because we have from Zeppelin Rental, we are in the Nordics, like Sweden and Denmark, for example. Now we also added Netherlands and Norway to our market. So in this country, sustainability is already very common. So it is very well established in many processes. If you go more south regarding Germany and Austria, it's still a big topic regarding the price in the end. So sustainability is nice to have. We want to use it as a client, but who wants to pay for it? So this in the German and Austrian market, especially in Germany, most of the environmental or sustainability push is done by tender requirements. That's why I want to focus on that topic during my talk as well. Yeah, and then we also have Czech Republic and Slovakia, and their sustainability is still not a big topic. So here it's a possibility to be like a first mover, especially if you focus on that market.
Sure. Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks very much, Marcus. So, just as a final reminder to everybody, the Non-Road Powertrain and Fuels Conference will take place in Munich on the 7th and 8th of October 2025 this year. And registration details are available on the Emissions Analytics website. If you just click on events, there's a whole list of relevant conferences there. And then you can click on the Non-Road Powertrain and Fuels Conference and register through there. So thanks very much for watching and hope to see you in Munich.